Ciao. Welcome to this discussion with Andrea Furlan of Furlan Marri. My name is Barbara Palumbo. I am a journalist from the United States. Even though my last name is Palumbo, I apologize. I do not speak Italian, so please bear with me. This is going to be an English-speaking presentation. Thank you to the thousands of people in the audience right now. We're so happy to have you. Andrea and I have been friends pretty much since the beginning of Furlan Marri. We were just talking about meeting about 3 years ago, right around when the brand was launched. So this is going to be a very comfortable conversation. I do have my notes here, though, because I want to make sure I get my facts right. So I don't know if you're familiar with the brand. He really started out a couple years ago as what we would deem a micro brand. We just had a kind of behind-the-scenes chat about whether he still considered himself and Furlan Marri a micro brand or an independent brand, and we can talk about that a little bit more during this discussion. But I want to go back to your beginnings. When you graduated from ICAL, which I just asked you how to properly pronounce, but I'm not going to do that. But it's in very famous art school in Lausanne in Switzerland. Did you already know that you wanted to design watches? Two-part question. And if not, what led you to that path? Because you are the watch designer, the primary watch designer, you and your partner for Furlan Marri.
So I was passionate about watches since I had 15 years old, but I wanted to be a car designer by the past. When I was super young, I sketched a lot of cars, and I already wanted to be something, in the creation area. So I did all my school, like general background. I did German school. I did because of the University of Car Design was in Germany, in Pforzheim. But I always wanted to do something in the design area. And the ECAL, which is the École Cantonale d'Art de Lausanne. Yeah.
That's right. That's how you say it. Okay, you're right.
Then they didn't had a watch course. Okay, it was just industrial design. So I started.
And how old were you when you, if you don't mind my asking?
Yeah, it was I think 18. No, in 2011, from 2011 to 2015. So.
Okay, that's the year. But I asked how old you were. Don't avoid the question. No. How old were you when you were going to ICAL?
ICAL was 23, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
After
I have shoes older than that age. You realize that, right?
And it was super interesting to design like furniture. We designed a ski, snowboard, lamps. They had like we had course of graphic design, typography, photography, art history, and movie history. It was very interesting to have this kind of background, and it helped me a lot after. Right after the ECAL, I did an internship with Dominique Renaud from Renaud and Papy. It was directly into the watch world, but before that, I did a lot of internship in the watch industry, like almost 10 when I was 15 years old. So I began with Jean-Claude Biver at Hublot. Was 15 years old. I found his email on Google.
And you emailed him?
I wrote to him. And
he got back to you, right?
3 o'clock in the morning, he said, okay, I give you the email of Marine Lemonnier, which was his bras droit, right shoulder.
Yeah.
And they gave me my first internship. And then I did in Chopard as well. And HD3 complication with Jörg Gizek. And many internship to know a lot about the watchmaking world.
And was it your father who was interested in watches, I believe?
My father was a technical designer by the past, but then had completely other things. But he started to teach me how to draw in the old way, with the, I don't know how you said, the ink pencil.
Okay.
And then to erase the ink, we use the cutter. It's like a knife to
okay. Right. So you're tracing out like with a knife. Yeah.
So I had to he teach me how to design like this, and then it was all the followed like this.
And I love what you said about Mr. Biver, because the first time I met him in person, I was in Las Vegas at a trade show there, and he was there with Tag Heuer, and he was walking through the crowd, and I had only just started writing about watches, and this was about 9 years ago. And I thought, oh my God, that's the man himself. And I jumped out, almost I think scared him, and just said like, my name is Barbara Palumbo, and I write about watches, and he gave me his business card. And I emailed him, and exactly the same thing. It was like within 8 hours, I had an email back. So if you find Jean-Claude like Biver's email and you email him, he'll probably give you a reply.
You cannot find anymore.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that I was in Basel World at that time, and I was sitting in front of the booth of all the big brands with my little sketches and the portfolio to wait for the CEO to come to go to them and ask if they had an internship. And that's why I did some. But I was really shy. I'm shy, but I was really shy at that time to speak about.
I think that's probably why they noticed. It's probably because who does that? Who sits outside of a booth with your little sketch pad? And look at you, you're adorable. So I would have had you come in too. So your partner here, Hamad Amari, would tell me like it's Furlan Marri. So how did you meet him? When did you guys first meet? And when did you realize like, hey, we could actually do something here?
So directly after ECAL, I did an internship. The second day of my bachelor, the next day I did an internship with Dominique. And at that time, Ahmad, we were in discussion with Ahmad. He was interested in Renaud Papy story with Dominique, etc. We discussed together. We met together in Geneva at Christie's auction. Okay. And I saw in him like he's really like a creative person as well. So he sketched really well with the iPad. He paints as well, and he had this kind of strong eye in the. I would say he's a collector as well, watch collector, but he's a strong eye for details. So we matched together in this era. We had the same vision of aesthetic. Even if he were in Saudi Arabia, Middle East, and me in Geneva. And yeah, after Dominique, I went to Asia to live in Asia. And when I went back to Asia, it was during COVID. And we decided together to make the brand, a new brand, during COVID through Zoom meeting. And he was stuck in the Middle East, me in Geneva, in my parents' home. I was in the bedroom, and we started the Kickstarter in my bedroom.
That's a great story. Yeah. And it's, I mean, obviously your aesthetic, there's definitely an homage to vintage pieces. You know, on your website, if you visit the Furlan Marri website, it says that you had an appreciation for vintage from an early age. So is this something that, you know, Hamad also felt the same way about vintage pieces? And is this when you guys first started talking about, hey, we could actually design a watch brand, was that always top of mind? Like, we want to kind of have it be influenced by vintage timepieces?
I loved vintage shapes, furniture. When I was in the design school, I had this kind of lesson about the history of the furniture and design from the 40s, 50s, and until the 70s. And I love this kind of shape. It was, I think, more free before. You can see that on the vintage cars as well, some organic shapes. So, when I was young, 15 years old, my grandfather had a Rolex on the wrist. He never took his watch off the wrist. But when I was with him eating some pasta in Geneva, he took off the watch, and I could design the watch when I was with him. And it was my first relation with watches was that moment with my grandfather. So it was, yeah, I started. I
think you just made fans in the crowd that you said you were eating pasta when you designed your first watch.
Furlan, the Venezia, the origin are from Venezia. My grandmother is still in Venezia.
Oh, I love that. All right, so I'm going to bring it up to what's happening right now. The Grand Prix Horlogerie de Genève, the GPHG, obviously the short list just came out for that. In 2021, literally the year that Furlan Marri was launched, yeah, six months into it, and that's actually, I think, the year we met too in Dubai. One of your pieces won the Revelation Prize at the GPHG, and that's actually the prize that's geared toward emerging brands. So what do you think sets like what, in your mind, what set your watch apart from the other short list of watches in that category in order for you guys to win?
When we put the watch in the GPHG, it was the challenge price. So it was watches under 3,000 Swiss francs. And we then were moved to another category because we won the watch, the horological revelation, which is, yes, I think they put this price twice, one in 2 years, every 2 years.
Yeah.
They gave this price. And it was actually a surprise for us. After 6 months, really, we begin with only a Mecha Quartz line, and we received that price. So we said with Ahmad, okay, now it's serious. We have to
You got to step up.
Yeah,
Where do you go from here? I mean, when you're only a brand that's been around for 6 months, which really is unheard of for the most part. I mean, when you see the GPHG, I mean, you see a mixture of really, really big names, but then you also see a mixture of, super high-end single guys like Mr. Calabrese, or super high-end independent brands like an MB&F or a Moser, and then for somebody like you and your brand to come out and 6 months old and to win this very coveted, it's sort of like the Academy Awards of watchmaking. That was a pretty big thing. And this year, you have 2 watches that have also made the short list. One, the Perpetual One, which is your perpetual calendar timepiece. Talk to me about, I'm wearing, this is one of the ones that's in, and what category is this in?
challenge.
This is in the challenge.
Yeah.
This is under 3,000 Swiss francs.
It's a handmade, hand-finished movement, hand beveling in Geneva. And thank you. And it's a Disco Volante. So I bought an old Disco Volante from the 30s. It was a really small watch. And I said to myself, I don't find Disco Volante again in the market.
Yeah.
And I think we wanted to have our modern twist on the disco, on this aesthetic. And I think it's, for me, it's one of the best watches we did, and we are the most proud because we tried to mix this aesthetic with a movement that was really important in the watch industry, the puzzle movement. And we totally redesigned the bridge. We put hand-finished black polish screws, black polish around the jewels. There is a chamfer around the jewels. So it was a lot of effort from us, and tried to get that at that price point as well. I think it's, we are proud of this watch, and we love this. We put Luminova inside, so
Okay.
it's a little twist, modern twist. And also the perpetual calendar, thanks
Perpetual
to Dominique Renaud, which I worked with him 4 years. Then I went to Asia, go back to Switzerland, and we decided to make a project together. And he had this idea of perpetual calendar, really simple. I think it's the most simple in the world, one of the most simple. 21 components.
Probably one of the most affordable. I'd be fair to say.
It will be less than 10,000 Swiss francs for hand finish as well, solid rose gold rotor. And with this kind of, I like it because Dominique Renaud had 40 years of experience in the complication world with Renaud and Papy, and he decided to make it super simple. So with all this experience, he made something like that, something simple. And I think technologically, it's in the development way, it's very interesting in how it works. There is no more pusher around the case. There is only one button to control all the perpetual calendar. And it's a modular system, patented. We can do annual calendar, perpetual, or secular perpetual calendar on the same module because it's totally modular. So we can play with that. And that's what it's really interesting. We can pair that with a l'ajout pair movement, so to keep the price also affordable. And we can put that on all the movements in the market. So in the future, if we decide to put that on the puzzle movement, it will be a super thin perpetual calendar. Yeah.
So you, and I, just to follow up that, where are you in Geneva? Like, are your offices in Geneva right now? So you consider yourself a Geneva, watchmaking. Is there a manufacturer? Are you using mostly outside sources to make the different parts?
A few months ago, we were only 2 in the team. Now we are 8, almost 9. in 1 week 9. And yeah, but it's the step is quite fast, so we need to also train people, or they need to have the DNA of the brand. And we have now a little atelier, which is in Geneva as well. A friend of Dominique Renault opened a little atelier only also for us, just to make like special project, like to find a technical how to make more affordable, accessible complications. So we already patented another complication. Will be next year. We will show that.
That's
and,
wonderful.
we experiment some new things, and keeping the same affordable, accessible way in our brand. So we have a Mecha Quartz line, mechanical line, and technical line. It's really clear, so people, they know where they want to go also in our brand.
That's a brilliant segue actually into my next question, because you and I briefly chatted about this out by where your booth is. The beginning, of course, it was quartz, mechanical quartz, but beautiful quartz timepieces, definitely on the lower end of the price point. When you think about what the prices of watches can be, it was mechanically simpler, less expensive. Do you get any negative comments from your original buyers, your original collectors, now that you've moved into these more expensive, more complicated categories of watches? I mean, do you get any feedback that's just like, oh, we were buying your watches when it was affordable and now I can't touch them? I mean, do you get, because I see that happen with brands who evolve. I mean, there are plenty of brands. We talked about it at your booth. So how do you feel that most of your collectors and enthusiasts feel about the shift in your movements?
No, we have no negative comments about that. We just have people who get impatient. They want to have the new, for example, new Mecha Quartz on the collection. But since we said from the beginning that we will have 3 lines, we will play around those lines in the future. So we will, when we made the perpetual calendar, yes, it was a huge shift in terms of price points, but people understand that, and we will always, we'll never forget the community from the beginning. We will do Mecha Quartz, new Mecha Quartz collection this year. We will do also a mechanical line, a new mechanical line in the future. So we are in this area where we can we are really clear on what we do, and I think if it's clear, people they know. And
full disclosure.
Yeah,
I think that's really what everybody wants in the industry for the most part. Let us know that this is going to be the case. So that's great. I know you just came pretty much from Geneva Watch Days, which is growing. I haven't been able to get there yet, but from what a lot of my colleagues tell me, like this is also sort of an event that's happening, and you got to sit on a stage with some pretty big people there. You want to brag about that right now?
Really like shy, because I was with Max Busser, Redchepi, Jean-Christophe Babin, and me, and was like, who am I to be there? But it was interesting to have this kind of young e-commerce brand, because we have no retailer, maybe one, but and in front of those big names, it was interesting to discuss and to exchange the points between me and them.
Oh yeah, I mean, Recep, obviously a modern day master, really. I mean, completely. He's on everybody's list, and his waiting list is crazy. And then, of course, Max is not a watchmaker. I mean, he's an idea guy. And then Baban, of course, with one of the biggest groups, LVMH. And then little old you, Andrea. That's pretty amazing. It's pretty extraordinary. So I know you're working on stuff, but when is your next big launch?
So this end of the year, we will do the perpetual calendar. It will be 50 piece only, because we have 50 movements ready, and then we will do a production piece. I think it will be small batch, because we really want to control how we do the assembly, the quality control. It's a whole new process of from mass production to this kind of at that price point as well. So we have to deal between those two way of selling. And thanks to Sébastien, who is our technical manager with the atelier, we can really control this kind of assembling process And I think it's great to experiment some things, but we are secured. We don't want to make a lot of things. We want the perpetual to work. So we have a lot of since 2 or 3 months now. We test the product and we test the function before putting that in the public. Yeah.
So another thing that you and I discussed when we were hanging out in VO24, I had asked you, because obviously you were direct to public, but you mentioned that now you are in some boutiques around the world, correct?
So we have opened with Time Tide in Australia. They will open a showroom in London, so we will be there as well. Interesting for us.
Mr. McGutcheon he's moved to London, so now you're in both. That's great.
And then we will open, I think, Saudi Arabia, because 50% of our customers are from Middle East, so we can open a showroom there, and we will open our own showroom in Tokyo this year. Yeah. No.
Do you pinch yourself? Do you look in the mirror and go, "My goodness, how did I get here"? Is it surreal for you at this point?
It's very exciting, but a lot of work. I don't have a lot of nights during those three years. It's short, but we really want to push everything. And thanks, now we have a team that can help a lot on that. Yeah.
So what you're saying is you and I are not going to hit a cigar bar tonight like we did in Dubai. We're not doing that. Oh, okay. We got to get that in. Okay, so we've recently seen independent Swiss watch brand H. Moser & C collaborate with an English micro brand, our friend Richard at Studio Underdog, on what they called a passion project. And this is a two-part question. Which we did talk about kind of early, I mentioned at the beginning, do you still see yourself as a micro brand? Because that was always the category you were grouped into 3 years ago when Furlan Marri came about. Or do you now consider yourself more of an independent brand now that price points are different and your technical aspects are different and your mechanics are different? Where do you group yourself?
Tricky question, but I think we are on both sides a little bit because we begin with the micro brand way with like we did pre-order a lot, and we do again pre-order because it's an interesting way of taking the temperature for for example, a permanent collection, or we can have this kind of instant feedback from the community. So for me, it's really important to keep that. And also, we have a small team. We begin with 1-2 people, now 8. So it's like we are growing in terms of that. And the volume we do from the production, it's more, I think, as an independent brand than a micro brand. I don't know, but with the team we have and the way of producing our piece, I think we are more on this kind of both area, like between sometimes micro brand, we still are micro brand, and independent brand at the same time. But it's really interesting question, and we don't know yet where we place our brand.
Well, and the reason and that was sort of a leading question. The reason I asked that is, and I'll use MB&F as an example. You have this fairly major independent brand, and they have partnered with another independent brand, H. Moser & C, to do a collaborative watches. They've also partnered with Bulgari to do a collaborative woman's watch. So you have Bulgari and LVMH, very big brand, Italian brand, obviously. But now that we saw what Moser did with collaborating with a micro brand, is that something that you think, listen, you were sitting on that panel with Max, did you get in his ear and go, hey, you guys want to maybe collaborate on something? Because Max is the guy to actually think outside the box and have an idea.
We had that discussion with other like really big brands to how we can collaborate. It was like 1.5 years ago, but we were too young, and we had this kind of. For me, it was more important to work on the perpetual calendar. It took us almost 1 year, which is short for developing a complication and patent, etc. But it was for only watch, and we had that moment. And we wanted really to push our limits, so we decided to collaborate with Dominique Renault, which is also a big name in the watch industry. He's not well known like not as famous as other big brands, but he made so much for the watch industry with Renault and Papi that it was super important and for us to collaborate in that way to begin. And yeah, let's see for the future if we can had that conversation with brands. Yeah.
Well, I'll get in people's ears, and I'm sure that there are some guys here that can help you out with that if you want to do that. So I'll end my questions, and then we can open up the floor if anybody has questions of their own for Andrea. You're a young entrepreneur, and I know for a fact, obviously, you employ several women at your company. So again, sort of two-part question. What do you feel the current watch enthusiast community can do to draw in not just more young people like you, Gen Z, still millennials, but Gen Z in particular, but also more women to the watch world? What's your, I know you were like, oh, that's going to stump me, I think, but I mean, what's your gut feeling? Like, what do you think, if you were an outsider and you weren't a watch designer and you didn't have a brand that was winning GPHG awards, and you were showing up to watch collector events and dinners and things like that, what would you, because obviously you work with women who understand the watch industry, so what would you do, or what would you want to see happen to turn on more young people and more women?
So what we do, first on our website, there is no men's or women's watch, nothing like this. It's a names collection and it's unisex. And when we begin, we had like 90%, 95%, it was men who bought our watches. Now there is more and more women who buy our watch. I think it's also because we want also to collaborate with women. For example, in the design area, we will maybe collaborate with a woman designer, which is a friend, so it was natural to make something together. And I want to see more, like, for example, forum, when we speak, for example, the Geneva Watch Days. I think it was one of the first time I saw Marine Lemonnier and all the other women speaking, but there is not so much, like, we don't see a lot of forum led by women. For example, in the AHCI, there is a Shona, who is one of the first, the only independent watchmaker. And we want to see that in the panel or discussion as well. It's really interesting. And for us, it's normal, it's natural, it's logical. Camille, for example, our first colleague was there. She was a friend, and she came. It was natural, so it's not because of we just I don't know.
It just worked.
Yeah, it just worked.
Yeah, it just worked. But I mean, look, as someone who is older, I'm Gen X, and it makes me very happy to see more women showing up to collector events and dinners and things of that nature.
Especially in, for example, if you see like the collective Aced Out, which is led by Lorenzo Maillard. It's a collective of, they love vintage watches. They did a collaboration with Sotheby's for an auction, and it's all about young people, really young people, Gen Z, etc., who love vintage watches, and they try to make bridge between like Sotheby's auction and them, and it's, I think, one of the first time we see that, and it's super interesting for the future to talk with them, collaborate with them. Maybe the big brands can also collaborate with this kind of young collective.
Younger groups, yeah.
Yeah.
And credit to Vicenza Oro. Another event that they have at a different time of year is VO Vintage, and I usually get to come in from the States to visit that event too. I've bought probably too many watches that I care to admit to at VO Vintage. But when I walk through, I mean, it is a lot of younger faces. I mean, there are a lot of younger collectors, a lot of younger Instagram personalities who show up to that event. So, I think these guys here at this fair, they're definitely in tap with that. But I would like to see that continue to grow. And I definitely think it will. And I think when you're the face of a brand like Furlan Marri, and you're getting the recognition that you are, and you're getting the nods from people who are older than you and who have come before you, I think that, like, it's sort of, if you can see it, you can be it. You could, potentially there could be a 15-year-old boy out there sketching his grandfather's watch while eating pasta, who looks at you and goes, oh, I could actually do something like that. So thank you, Andrea. And thank you to Vicenza Oro for having me. But I do want to open the floor up if anybody has any questions. Anybody? Questions? No? Bueller? No? Last call? All right, well, thank you guys for coming, and thank you
Thanks,
so
Barbara.
much.
Yeah.
It's always such a pleasure to be with you, and I
Thank you, Barbara.
appreciate Vincenzo for having us out here. Thank you.